Hi there, it's Mary Parker here with another random facts. So because it's the holiday season, I thought it'd be really fun to do some trivia about Christmas music and carols. Not saying the other holidays are not important with their music and traditions as well. Hopefully I'll get to those next year. In fact, I didn't even get to do as many carols as I was hoping to get information on. Forewarning, I did not get a chance to double check pronunciations on things, and some of them are in Finnish. My Finnish is not very good, if not non-existent, so I'm going to apologize in advance for any mispronunciations I may have. But we're going to start with the first carol to ever be printed. It's called a Boar's Head Carol. It's a macronic carol, which means that it's in two languages. It's both in English and Latin. They go between the two within the verses. And it's from the 15th century, describing the ancient tradition of sacrificing a boar and presenting its head at Yuletide feast. The most commonly performed version today is based on a version published in 1521 in Wynkyn de Word's Christmas Carols. Now that is spelled, if you ever want to try to find that publication, it is spelled in the more Middle English, Old English type style. They did not have set spellings then, and it does not match the spellings of today. Now, according to folklorists, the tradition was likely initiated on the Isle of Britain by the Anglo-Saxons, although our knowledge of it comes mostly from medieval times. In ancient Norse tradition, the sacrifice carried the intent of imploring Freyr to show favor to the new year. The boar's head with apple in mouth was carried into the banquet hall and a gold or silver dish to the sounds of trumpets and songs of minstrels. St. Stephen may have inherited some of Freyr's legacy in Scandinavia and England. The day of St. Stephen's feast is December 26th. Thus, he came to play a part in the Yuletide celebrations, which were previously associated with Freyr or Yngwie, the Anglo-Saxon, to the Anglo-Saxons. In Old Swedish art, Stephen is shown as tending to horses and bringing a boar's head to a Yuletide banquet. Both elements are extra-canonical and may be pagan remnants, which actually Yule itself is also the pagan holiday, not necessarily a part of Christmas. It actually came more from the pagan, from what I've come to understand. Christmas ham is an old tradition in Sweden, and many have originated as a winter solstice boar sacrifice, and may have originated as a winter solstice boar sacrifice to Freyr. As of 2008, the tradition of processing with the boar's head while singing the carol was still being observed at several locations. And there's actually alternate words for some of them. So the verses actually go, the boar's head and hand bear I, but it could be bring I. Bedecked with bays and rosemary. That's how the group I used to sing with sing it. King singers and all of the British traditionalists that are singing it, I've always heard them sing Rosemary, which is actually harder to get out. And I pray you, my masters, be merry. Also can be, and I pray you, my masters, merry be. And then, quote, estis in convivio, which translates as, many are in the feast. Then it goes into the refrain of, Caput apri de ferro, credens modus domino. Those two lines actually end up translating as, the boar's head I bear, and then giving praises to the Lord. There's also an alternative version in which the lyrics are modified to fit poultry being served, replacing the boar's head and hand bring I with the fowl on the platter see. And the boar's head, as I understand, is the rarest dish in all this land, with the large bird. This large bird, as I understand, is the finest dish in all this land. Apparently poultry was a very expensive item to have at that time, and they would eat peacock pies even. Turkeys, not so much yet. That came from South America. So the Boar's Head, oldest carol that has been printed. Now, onto a more modern one that I think more of us know. Jingle Bells. Now, originally, it was known as One Horse Open Sleigh. Jingle Bells is one of the best known and commonly American songs in the world. Written by James Lord Pierpont and published under the aforementioned title One Horse Open Sleigh in the autumn of 1857. Notice I said autumn. We're going to get to that in a little bit. It has been claimed that it was originally written to be sung by a Sunday school choir. However, historians dispute this, stating it's much too racy and secular to be sung by a children's church choir in the days it was written. Now here's why it was published in fall, probably. Originally, it was intended for the Thanksgiving season and having no connection to Christmas. It became associated with Christmas music and the holiday season in general decades after it was first performed in Washington Street on Washington Street in Boston in 1857. It was first recorded in 1889 on an Edison cylinder. That predates the record, so it's a cylinder that you would record it on, special player. I wish I had one of those. I only have a record player for the older media. A plaque at 19 High Street in the center of Medford Square in Medford, Massachusetts, commemorates the birthplace of Jingle Bells and claims that Pierpont wrote the song there in 1850 at what was then the Simpson Tavern. According to the Medford Historical Society, the song was inspired by the town's sleigh races, which were popular during the 19th century. It was originally copyrighted under the name One Horse Open Sleigh on September 16th, 1857. One of Pierpont's friends, Mrs. Otis Waterman, described the song as a merry little jingle, which went on to become part of its new name when published again in 1859 under the revised title of Jingle Bells or One Horse Open Sleigh. That was the full title. The song has passed into the public domain since, so it's completely free to sing it whenever you wish. The song's copyright date has cast some doubt on the belief that Pierpont wrote the song in Medford, since by that date he was the organist and music director of the Unitarian Church in Savannah, Georgia, where his brother, Reverend John Pierpont Jr., was employed. In August, James Pierpont married the daughter of the mayor in Savannah, and he continued to live in the city after the church closed due to its abolitionist leanings. Jingle Bells was often used as a drinking song at parties. It's believed people would jingle the ice in their glasses as they sung. The double meaning of upsot was thought humorous, and a sleigh ride gave an unescorted couple a rare chance to be together, unchaperoned, in distant woods or fields with all the opportunities that afforded. So who knows what they got up to on those sleigh rides otherwise, but upsot, kind of a play on words, I guess. During the winter in pre-automobile New England, it was common to adorn horses with harnesses with straps bearing bells as a way to avoid collisions at blind intersections, since a horse-drawn sleigh in snow makes very little sound. Bells are still used oftentimes by equestrians when they trail ride and during hunting season or something, just to kind of let the hunters know, this is not a deer, this is a person on a horse, don't shoot. It's still used as a warning system. The tune's rhythm mimics that of a trotting horse's bells. However, Jingle Bells is commonly taken to mean a certain kind of bell. But originally it was meant to be kind of any bell put on the horse, apparently. I think the jingles just work that specific kind of bell that they think of as being jingle bells. It was probably just that worked better than, say, a clanging bell for the horses to be heard. So, although less known than the opening, the rest of the verses depict high-speed, youthful fun. In the second verse, the narrator takes a ride with a girl and loses control of the sleigh. In the next verse, which is often omitted, in fact, I've never sung it, and I've sung this song many, many times, he falls out of the sleigh and a rival laughs at him. And in the last verse, after relating his experience, he gives his advice to a friend to pick up some girls, find a faster horse, and take off at full speed. The other verses I have sung, it's just that one that is often omitted that I've never sung for some reason. Now, some of the words used in it. Upsot is an alternative poetic version of upset, and it can also mean drunkard. 240 refers to a mile in 2 minutes and 40 seconds at a trot or 22.5 miles per hour. And this speed actually suggests the horse should be a standardbred. Those are often used for trotting races, if you didn't know, which they pull a cart in. The first two stanzas and the chorus of the original 1857 lyrics differed slightly from those used today. It is unknown who replaced the words with those in the contemporary version, however. James Lord Pierremont's 1857 composition Jingle Bells became one of the most performed and most recognizable secular holiday songs ever written, not only in the United States, but around the world. In recognition of this achievement, Pierpont was voted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. In 1955, Don Charles from Copenhagen recorded a novelty version, which we're all familiar with. I was surprised to find out it was from 1955, with dogs barking the melody of Jingle Bells, and a version credited simply to St. Nick called Jingle Bells Laughing All the Way, which features someone laughing. Jingle Bells was the first song broadcast from space as part of a Christmas-themed prank by Gemini 6 astronauts Tom Stafford and Wally Schirra. While in space, on December 16, 1965, they sent a report to Mission Control as follows. Gemini 7, this is Gemini 6. We have an object. Looks like a satellite going from north to south, up in a polar orbit. He's in a very low trajectory, traveling from north to south, and has a very high climbing ratio. It looks like it might even be a very low. Looks like he might be going to re-enter soon. Stand by 1. You might just let me try to pick up that thing. The astronauts then produced a smuggled harmonica and sleigh bells and broadcast a rendition of Jingle Bells. The harmonica shown to the press upon their return was a Hohner Little Lady, which is a tiny harmonica about 1 inch long by 3/8 of an inch in width. So, first song from outer space, or at least to us. Among many popular spoofs is Pumpkin Bells, a pumpkin carol which celebrates Halloween and the Great Pumpkin. It originated in the Peanuts Book of Pumpkin Carols, a booklet based on the Peanuts comic strip and published by Hallmark Cards in the 1960s. So, the Great Pumpkin does have a song, apparently. Now, the Australian or Aussie Jingle Bells broadly translates the idea of the original song to summertime Christmas as it occurs in the South, in the Southern Hemisphere. So, as much as we tend to think of Christmas as being snowy, and I don't know if that's translated into the Southern Hemisphere, even though their Christmas actually occurred, for them, Christmas is in summer. It's summer down there right now. But that's just how it is. We Americans take over everything. No, I'm just teasing. It's probably just, the Northern Hemisphere culture and translating it down to the South that I think a lot of them do still associate. I may be wrong. Feel free to tell me in the comments if I am. But there tends to be an association of Christmas and snow. Reasons I love the Heat Miser song, which is not mentioned today, but anyway. Jingle Bell Rock by Bobby Helms pays homage to Jingle Bells, directly referencing the source song's lyrics, but with a different melody. The first notes in the chorus have become a motif that has been inserted into recordings of other Christmas songs. Now, those first notes being Jingle Bells, not Jingle Bell Rock. I was going to talk about Jingle Bell Rock, but I just ran out of time making cards. Now we're going to move on to another song about bells, Silver Bells. In 2010, the Israeli satirical website Latma produced a parody titled Jihad Bells, where the Palestinian Minister of Uncontrollable Rage explains the persecution of Christians in the Muslim world. Normally I start with the history first. I just happen to have that card at the top. So, more on the traditional Silver Bells. It was composed by Jay Livingston and Ray Evans. Silver Bells was first performed by Bob Hope and Marilyn Maxwell in the motion picture The Lemon Drop Kid. It was filmed in July to August of 1950, but released in March of 1951. The first recorded version was by Bing Crosby and Carol Richards on September 8th, 1950. So after the film was wrapped, but before it was released. With John Scott Rodder and his orchestra and the Lee Gordon Singers, which was released by Decca Records in October of 1950. After the Crosby and Richards recording became popular, Hope and Maxwell were called back into film in late 1950 to refilm a more elaborate production of the song. Silver Bells started out as the questionable Tinkle Bells. So glad it didn't end up having that title. Ray Evans said, "We never thought that tinkle had a double meaning until Jay went home and his first wife said, 'Are you out of your mind? Do you know what the word tinkle is?' The word is, for those who don't know, is also slang for urination." So very glad that Silver Bells did not stay as Tinkle Bells. Inspiration for the song has conflicting reports. Several periodicals and interviews cite the writer Jay Livingston stating that the song's inspiration came from the bells used by sidewalk Santas, Santa Clauses, and Salvation Army solicitors on New York City street corners. However, in an interview with NPR, co-writer Ray Evans said that the song was inspired by a bell that sat on their office desk that they shared between Livingston and himself. So, not sure, maybe one was inspired by one was inspired by the other. Never know. But that's it on Silver Bells. Now we're going to move on to Sleigh Ride, which is another one that I love. Back when I was in high school, I was in band. I played flute and oboe in the band. And this is one of the songs I actually loved playing every year. For some reason, we played it every year. So I wanted to include it here. Sleigh Ride is a popular light orchestra standard composed by Leroy Anderson. The composer had the original idea for the piece during a heat wave in July of 1946 and finished the work in February 1948. It was originally instrumental. The lyrics were where someone asks another to join them for a ride in a sleigh were written by Mitchell Parrish in 1950. The orchestral version was first recorded in 1949 by Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops Orchestra. It has become one of the orchestra's signature songs. The 45 RPM version was originally issued on red vinyl, and the Boston Pops has also recorded the song with John Williams. Most of us know his compositions today from films like Star Wars, but he is one of the great composers of our time, I think. My opinion, obviously. Who was actually the conductor of the Boston Pops from 1979 to 1995, and Keith Lockhart, who is their current conductor, also has recorded it with the Boston Pops. Leroy Anderson's own recording of Sleigh Ride on Decca 9 16,000, which was a 45 RPM, and just 16,000, which is a 78 RPM. Yes, there used to be more speeds to records than just two. Reached Cashbox Magazine's bestseller chart when re-released in 1952. The first vocal version was recorded by the Andrews Sisters in 1950. Although often associated with Christmas and appears on Christmas compilation albums, the lyrics mention no holiday. So it's another, not necessarily Christmas song that we think of as a Christmas song. There's actually quite a few. Winter Wonderland is another one. There's no mention of Christmas. Just no holiday mentioned. It's winter. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. No Christmas mentioned. Baby, it's cold outside. No Christmas mentioned. It just happens to be that we tend to listen to it at the Christmas time of year. Sleigh Ride, noted for the sounds of the horses clip-clopping and the whip being used to get the horses moving. In most performances, a percussionist provides these sounds on coconut shells and a slapstick, or occasionally a drum rim shot, respectively. Toward the end of the piece, a trumpet, which is actually probably my favorite part of the whole song, toward the end of the piece, a trumpet imitates the sound of a horse whinnying. They use a mute to do that. It's pretty fun. According to ASCAP, the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers review of Christmas music, Sleigh Ride consistently ranks as one of the top 10 most performed songs written by ASCAP members. They named Sleigh Ride the most popular piece of Christmas music in the U.S. from 2009 to 2012 based on performance data from over 2,500 radio stations. Anderson's recording remains the most popular instrumental version, while Johnny Mathis's has become the most popular vocal version. In his book, Leroy Anderson, A Biobibliography, Steve Metcalf says, Sleigh Ride has been performed and recorded by a wider array of musical artists than any other piece in the history of Western music. I don't know what his sources are on that, but I'm going to trust that he knows what he's talking about, hopefully. Sleigh Ride is in rondo form, and the second section utilizes an unusual, unprepared modulation to 3, then 2, referring to chords. And the difficulty of singing this has caused several recordings to alter the harmonies or omit this section, as in the Phil Spector Ronettes version. It can be difficult to sing sometimes. We're going to move on to a more modern one, Rudolph. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a song written by Johnny Marks based on the 1939 story of the same name, which was published by Montgomery Ward Company. I've actually seen early copies of it that were published by Montgomery Ward. It's kind of neat. Gene Autry's recording hit #1 in the U.S. charts the week of Christmas 1949. In 1939, Mark's brother-in-law, Robert L. May, created the character Rudolph as an assignment for Montgomery Ward, and Marks decided to adapt the story of Rudolph into a song. Marks was a radio producer who also wrote several other popular Christmas songs. Now, I have not looked up to see what songs he also wrote, but apparently he did. So Rudolph had an added introduction paraphrasing the poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, which is public domain by the time that they published it. And it states the names of the 8 reindeer. I think we all know that section of the song these days. The song was first sung by crooner Harry Brannon on New York City radio in early November 1949, before Gene Autry's recording hit #1 in the U.S. charts during the Christmas of 1949. The song was suggested as a B-side for a record Autry was making. Autry rejected the song, but his wife convinced him to use it. The success of this Christmas song by Autry gave support to Autry's subsequent popular Easter song, Here Comes Peter Cottontail. Autry's version is also the only chart-topping hit to fall completely off the chart after reaching #1. Probably because of the time of year. The lyric, All of the Other Reindeer, can be misheard in dialects as Olive the Other Reindeer, and has given rise to another character featured in her own Christmas television special, Olive the Other Reindeer. So because of some people mishearing the lyric, there is now a Christmas special about a reindeer named Olive. So this is where my Finnish, I'm just going to apologize now. The song in its Finnish translation, Petteri Punakuono, has led to Rudolph's general acceptance in the mythology as the lead reindeer, Joulupukki, which is the Finnish Santa. Sorry for the Finnish, but kind of neat to know that this very commercial character from Montgomery Ward has been accepted into Finnish mythology as the head reindeer of Santa's sleigh. Now we're going to get to the last one, which is by one of my favorite composers of that era. It's called White Christmas. In 1942, Irving Berlin song reminiscing about an old-fashioned Christmas setting. The version, sung by Bing Crosby, is the world's best-selling single with estimated sales in excess of 100 million copies worldwide. Other versions of the song, combined with Crosby's, have sold over 50 million copies. That seems contradictory. I may have miswritten that down. Might be 500 million. So I'm going to apologize for that right now. Accounts vary as to when and where Berlin wrote the song. Another one of those, are we sure this is where it happened? So one story has it that he wrote it in 1940 in warm La Quinta, California, while staying at the La Quinta Hotel, which was also a frequent Hollywood retreat favored by Frank Capra. Famous director, if you didn't know. Look him up. Even though the Arizona-built whore also claims the song was written there. The song White Christmas was actually written by Berlin while staying overnight with a friend in Banning, California. It was on New Year's Day in 1940 when Irving looked out the window only to discover a light snowfall. Snow occasionally falls in the San Gorgonio Pass, and while in Banning, Irving wrote the words to White Christmas because of the surprise of the snow, which came during the early morning hours and covered Banning. That sounds a little more believable to me, the surprise snowstorm. The first public performance of the song was by Bing Crosby on his NBC radio show, the Kraft Music Hall, on Christmas Day, 1941. At first, Crosby did not see anything special about the song. He just said, "I don't think we have any problems with that one, Irving." The song established and solidified the fact that there could be commercially successful secular Christmas songs, and in this case, written by a Jewish American songwriter who also wrote God Bless America. He was actually an immigrant. He was a Jewish American immigrant to this country and wrote God Bless America and White Christmas and many more. Like I said, it's my favorite of that era. We'll get off that tangent. Initially, the song performed poorly and was overshadowed by Holiday Inn's first hit song, Be Careful, It's My Heart. By the end of October 1942, White Christmas topped the Your Hit Parade chart. It remained in that position until well into the new year. It has often been noted that the mix of melancholy, just like the ones I used to know, with comforting images of home, where the treetops glisten, resonate especially strongly with listeners during World War II. A few weeks after the attacks of Pearl Harbor, Crosby introduced White Christmas on a Christmas Day broadcast. The Armed Forces Network was flooded with requests for the song. The recording is noted for Crosby's whistling during the second chorus. For those who didn't know, Irving Berlin also wrote the How I Hate to Get Up in the Morning, so he was very pro-American military. He definitely supported our troops. In Holiday Inn, the composition won the Academy Award for Best Original Song in 1942. In the film, Crosby sings White Christmas as a duet with actress Marjorie Reynolds, though her voice was dubbed by Martha Mears. The now familiar scene was not the movie maker's initial plan. In the script, as originally conceived, Reynolds, not Crosby, would sing the song. The song would be featured in another Crosby film, the 1954 musical White Christmas, which became the highest grossing film of 1954. And I believe a lot of movie theaters still do a sing-along viewing of it every holiday season. I tend to be partial to it because I also not only love Irving Berlin, but I also love Danny Kaye, who is the co-star of one of the co-stars in that movie. The version most often heard on the radio today during the Christmas season is the 1947 re-recording. Although Crosby dismissed his role in the song's success, saying later that a jackdaw with a cleft palate could have sung it successfully, he was associated with it for the rest of his career. Crosby's White Christmas single has been credited with selling 50 million copies, the most by any released, and therefore it is the biggest selling single worldwide of all time. The Guinness Book of World Records 2009 edition lists the song as a 100 million seller, encompassing all versions of the song, including albums. See, that's where my misprint was. I probably just inverted the numbers accidentally. Crosby's holiday collection, Merry Christmas, was first released as an LP in 1949 and has never been out of print since. So they are still printing that album. People still want to hear that album. But considering how many holiday songs Bing Crosby seems to be associated with, it makes sense. There's some confusion and debate as to whether Crosby's recording is or is not the best-selling single, due to a lack of information on sales of White Christmas, because Crosby's recording was released before modern-day US and UK singles charts. After careful research, Guinness World Records in 2007 concluded that worldwide, Crosby's recording of White Christmas has, in their estimation, sold at least 50 million copies, and that Elton John's recording of Candle in the Wind 1997 has sold 33 million. Making Crosby's recording the best-selling single of all time. An update in the 2009 edition of the book decided to further help settle the controversy amicably by naming both John's and Crosby songs to be winners, by stating that John's recording is the best-selling single since UK and singles charts began in the 1950s, while maintaining that best-selling single of all time was released before the first pop charts, and that this distinction belongs to White Christmas, which it says was listed as the world's best-selling single in the first ever Guinness Book of Records, published in 1955, and still remains so. In 1999, National Public Radio, also known as NPR, included it in the NPR 100, which sought to compile the 100 most important American musical works of the 20th century. Crosby's version of the song also holds the distinction of being ranked number 2 on the Songs of the Century list, behind only Judy Garland's Over the Rainbow. As voted by members of the RIAA in 2002, the original 1942 version was one of 50 historically significant recordings chosen that year by the Library of Congress to be added to the National Recording Registry. In 2004, it finished at number 5 on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Songs survey of top tunes in American cinema. Another topic very close to my heart is cinema. The recording was broadcast on Armed Forces Radio on April 30th, 1975 as a secret prearranged signal precipitating the U.S. evacuation from Saigon. Irving Berlin's opening verse, which I have sung this one, unlike that one in Jingle Bells. Irving Berlin's opening verse often dropped in recordings, which I actually really love this opening verse. And when I found a piece of sheet music that still included this verse, had to buy it right away. Quote, "The sun is shining, the grass is green, the orange and palm trees sway. There's never been such a day in Beverly Hills, LA. But it's December the 24th, and I am longing to be up north." Which then continues to the I'm dreaming of a white Christmas after that. So it is a shortened version of what I hoped to do for Christmas songs and trivia, but I hope you are all enjoying this season and keeping safe, no matter what you do or do not celebrate. I hope it's a happy one. Be careful of drivers. Please don't drive when you shouldn't, as in if you're inebriated. Call an Uber, a Lyft, a cab, a friend who stayed sober. I'm one of those. I'm a sober friend. But I hope you have a great day. Please be kind to each other, not just this time of year, but the whole year long. Thank you. Bye.